So hello everybody, I am Bradley Hill. I am the founder of King B plus U, which is like this creative experience collective. I get to work with incredible people. And I am excited to bring some of those people to you all to have a conversation around representation as far as plus size, queer, and femme representation in streetwear. As like I said, some incredible individuals. This is Sized Up. It is brought to you by Be Social and Social Status. And just wanted to off the bat thank Tara Faye for allowing me to have this and to do this. And yeah, I'm gonna let the other panelists introduce themselves and talk a little bit about what they do. And then I will go from there. So you guys can popcorn, pick whoever.
Well, I can go first, everybody. I'm Tara. I work with the Be Social platform. We function as a community platform that is available for everyone to use. I'm an artist, curator, do a lot of things. I stay pretty busy. And I'm very happy to be here sharing space with all of you tonight and to be working in collaboration with Bradley Hill.
Hello, my name is Mia Marshall. I am the owner of Luxury Hair. So I do like creative hairstyling and just regular everyday looks and some other artistic expression within that. I'm also 1/3 member of Girls Running Shit, which is a platform that focuses on Black people within Pittsburgh, but also the femme and we pay all their attention to femmes and Black women here in the city, and we uplift them and we speak about mental health, and we have a few programs. And then I'm also just a creative and just other arenas. I've worked with like majority of the people on the panel so far. So I'm here to give my experience as a plus size woman uh, navigating streetwear and my experience as a consumer. So
Hi, everyone. So I am Kat Burton, and I am the founder of Create Art Together, which is a platform to uplift creatives and their voices, their talents, and any ideas or projects that they have. I serve as the creative director and a consultant for artists through Create Art Together. I put together a lot of different events within Pittsburgh, from fashion shows to photo galleries and photo campaigns. And I've worked with a lot of different communities within the Pittsburgh creative scene. So I'm here to talk about my experience uplifting their voices and making sure that they are represented in all of the work that I do. And thank you to Bradley. I'm very excited to be here.
Hey everybody, my name is Paul Johnson. I do a lot. So I guess my day job is I work for the Pittsburgh Promise as a Promise coach at Perry Traditional Academy, the high school on the north side. But in this realm, I am an artist in the mediums of photography and film. I do like music videos, digital art, like Photoshop, that kind of thing. And yeah, I'm just happy to be here and share my experience as a Black gay artist and being able to represent Black gay men and people in this space. So thank you, Bradley, and thank you, Tara. Thanks, guys, for having me. I'm excited to have a conversation with you
all. Thank you guys so much for introducing yourselves. For those of you guys who don't know who I am, once again, I'm Bradley Hill. For my friends who have joined late, I am also speaking from the experience of a consumer, like Mia said, as a plus size individual, but also through my experiences of centering marginalized voices in spaces where they are not typically represented. So I'm excited to talk about that and share that conversation with you all. We do have a chat. Sorry, we do have a chat. So if you are, you have a question, jump out, you can drop it in there and hopefully we'll be able to address all questions. If not, when they send at the end. The conversation will happen organically. So we're all just people. We're all navigating a pandemic. We are all, you know, struggling with Zoom fatigue. So don't feel pressure to turn your camera on or to participate. If you're just here to listen, you know, I greatly appreciate you just being here from the heart. Like, I'm really excited to do this with y'all. So just off the back, like, if you guys can talk a little bit about your relationship specifically with like streetwear and fashion, and how you've kind of defined your own style and your own look, and what that's been like.
Well, I can go first for this one too, only because I neglected to mention, for some that might be aware, I've worked with social status for about 10 years now. So I've been very invested in streetwear for quite some time. And over the years, my style has changed tremendously. I used to wear some of the most outlandish fits you have ever seen, you know, on a Tuesday working at one of the stores. And now I'm not less focused on streetwear, but I am more focused on comfort and functionality. So now, you know, I prefer like more relaxed fits. I've had people tell me that I dress much more conservatively, but I think, you know, I'm a little bit older, so style evolves and changes over time, and again becomes something like more functional. You know, I no longer dress to be the center of attention. So yeah, I would say my relationship with streetwear is one that's always changing, but I have such a deep love for it. And, you know, having knowledge of, you know, where streetwear began, everything that it's rooted in, which is very DIY culture, you know, sort of going against the norm. What's the phrase I'm looking for? It's disruptive, right? So yeah, seeing where it came from to where it is now, it's been interesting. It's been an interesting 10 years. So yeah, I love it. I always say, you know, I'm a lover of streetwear, a fan of streetwear, very interested in new brands. So yeah, and I apologize. I tend to ramble and go off
Do
on
not
tangents.
apologize at all. And I definitely like always reference like the pink wig photo of you at social status. Like, that's like, I so when you say like your style has evolved, like I get it, you know. I totally understand. And like Tara said, she has worked at social status for a while, and she's the knowledge girl. So I'm open to hear more about. She will pull references for sure that a lot of us do not have the gall to know. So yeah, go ahead, everybody else.
I can say that. Well, firstly, so I'm an Aquarius, and in true Aquarius form and fashion, we're just like, if it's not different, we want nothing to do with it. So like, and Bradley can probably speak if you remember my style, like from like high school to now. My God, like I used to wear so many colors, so many prints, patterns, like belts I didn't fit, but it's just like it has studs on it, so I'm gonna wear it over my clothes. Like, so like I've always had a very like eclectic sense of style. Like if I like anything, I'm gonna wear it. No matter if it fits per se, like fits, but to me it works. So I'm just gonna go with it. And so a lot of my fashion, and also shout out to my parents for letting me go to school and that shit, because they were just like, you're wearing, all right, go to school, have a good, like they couldn't even, like it was too much. So shout out to them for even letting me. But yeah, I found that a lot of my style, and like as far as streetwear is concerned, like kind of comes from all over the place. And so like I've just been able to go from just taking literally anything and putting it on to like taking anything and then like, okay, let's see how this actually makes sense, and then outfit. So like today I'm wearing like fishnets on here, but like it, you know, like it's still me, it's still out there, or like different or authentic to me, but like I've learned to kind of hone it into like a cohesion to a sense. So yeah, that's kind of how this all came about, I guess.
And we see you in the Who Is on Jones, you know, supporting local Pittsburgh.
Yes, shout out to
designers.
Rabbit Andre Jones, rabbit.co, C-O, if on Instagram, check him out. Dope Pittsburgh designer, love that guy to death, and his hair is amazing. So yeah.
I'll go. So I would say that my style is pretty minimalist. I like to wear neutral colors. I don't like to wear anything bold or bright. Um, I'm really about making a statement, but quietly making a statement and going about life, which is very reflective of the work that I do as well. I also was a dancer for most of my life from age 3 to college. So I always found a way to incorporate my dance clothes into my outfits, which translates now just even into like the work clothes that I have. I'm able to make classy outfits comfortable still and not not super uptight or anything, but just a comfortable laid back look that's also well put together, I would say.
I think for me, my style has definitely evolved. I say from high school, for me, it was just like finding clothes that fit and that looked good. And looking back, I feel like a lot of clothes that I wore were like men's clothing and clothing that was way too big, but at least fit on me. And so from high school going into college, it was just about affordability. So it was just about like making sure it fit and making sure it looked good, but it was also on a budget. And so now with me being out of school and being like working and having more access to more money, I feel like I'm able to shop at different places that offer different things that I wasn't able to get at a certain point in time. And I feel like just fashion overall isn't just focusing on like athleisure, because I feel like that's another thing with like plus size is all it is. And I don't know. I think for me personally, I love a good shoe. I love a nice sock to match with it. And so I've been able to like go and shop around and play around and see what works and what doesn't work for me. So a statement for sure would definitely be a shoe. And then it can vary. Like I've learned to make Target work. I know how to make if I need to go to Walmart, I can make Walmart work. So it's not even about having like the most expensive thing, but making sure that I'm able to coordinate it with something that like, if my shoe is a crazy price, but I can coordinate it with the something that's not as expensive. So I think just affordability and it fitting on me properly has just been something that I feel like my style has evolved through that way, if that makes sense. But
And I see you in the vintage thrifted Adidas dress that you're, you know, low-key flexing. Like I see it.
Thank you.
But Mia, you touch on such a great, you know, topic, and that'll move us into our next question. As like members of marginalized communities or as like members of the accepted community, how have you been marginalized, I guess, within streetwear, within your shopping experience, within, you know, financially? Like how have you been marginalized? What has your experience been like? And Mia, I know you talked a little bit about just like affordability and not being able to afford like certain things, but you also talked a little bit about availability. So can you talk a little bit more about that and just how that's been your experience? I think you're muted, friend.
When I was given the questions, I like tried to do research and see like what the campaigns were. And the only thing that I could find was like Nike launching that they go from 1 to 3X. And like I said, it was just athleisure. And so from there, like it's a start, but that's not where it stops. So I think just, I don't see me when I go shopping. I don't see my size. And if it is in my size, or if it is a plus size model, she's not plus size like me. Like it's just no variety in plus size. So a lot of it for me is just being creative and taking a lot of risk. And another thing that's helped me is shopping in men's clothing too. They have more, I don't know, when I'm thinking of streetwear, if I want like a graphic tee or like something, like a lot of times I won't find that in my size. So like just shopping around, and also like Instagram has been very helpful for me. And seeing what other creatives or what other people are putting together and see if I can replicate it with like my size that's available. So yeah, that's.
I love that you touched on like it says it's a 1X to a 3X, but is it really a 1X or a 3X?
And it's very just, there's no curvage and it's very just straight. Like I know for me personally, I do not like satin because there's no give in the material, as people would say. And I need my give, especially like in my arms and, you know, like in my waist and things like that. So I'm like very particular.
I definitely think about like the recent Ivy Park line with the latex. Like I just wonder how like the bigger girls who wanted that and wanted that look, like how their like experience was. And I know we have a friend who bought the dress in a size that she was instructed to buy the size, and it still didn't fit right. And this just always seems to be that discrepancy between, you know, how they're advertising plus size clothing to what it's actually doing for plus size consumers. And that's always been really hard for plus size consumers who want to be a part of the conversation, who want to be a part of the culture.
It takes the fun out of it.
It does, because you're like, oh, finally I can be a part of the hip. Then now what's happening? And then you get what you get. And it's like, you better be lucky you even, you know, right. You better be lucky we even considered you.
Especially if you're online too. Cause it's like, for me, I like that instant gratification. Like I've learned to love my shopping experience. When I was younger, I didn't. So like now it's like, I want to buy things in store. I want to be able to feel it, touch it and stuff like that. So I'm like apprehensive to shop online, because it's like, you have a model that says they're a 1X or whatever, but when I get it, I can barely get it over my stomach. So it's just like, no one having to deal with that. So
trying to buy clothes online has been like the most daunting thing ever. Like I guess I can say I was like bigger when I was younger, like size wise, but like it's like I'm a male with like, I have hips, I have thighs, I have a butt. Like these pants don't fit me. Like they might fit my waist, but girl, these thighs, okay, they don't lie. So it's like I cannot, you know, like they'll fit, but like they don't fit. And so it's like it's always a toss up. Almost every time when I order anything like offline, if it's not a t-shirt or like a top or like a hoodie, pants, I just can't trust that they'll fit me right or they'll complement my body the way they're supposed to, because like they're not really made for my shape. Like I have hips. I don't know. Like, I don't know. Like, would you like, I can't fit them. But but with that, Mia, it's funny you said that you look at men's, because I shop in women's because I have hips. So it's like, I need, like, I've bought in so many pairs of pants that are like in the women's department, because it's like, okay, I can fit these, like they accentuate my body. Like I can walk, my thighs are not like constricted. You know what I'm saying? So that's interesting that you found men's clothing to be more like fit better.
Especially like men's shirts. More specifically, I don't think I've ever tried to do. Well, if they're not fit for you, they're not fit for me.
I was like, child, don't.
So let me just stop that right there. But yeah, or like even socks. Like I said, like that's a small, for some people that's like an accessory, but for me that's something I pay attention to. And I don't see like patterned socks, or like, I don't want to say corny because someone likes it, but I don't want to see cherries and all the time and teddy bears all the time. Like I like like patterns, and no offense, and I know that someone likes that, but as far as variety, sometimes I don't feel like, as being like a plus size woman, that I have that.
I have a question for you all, and then I have a question for Tara. But first, because you guys talked about like shopping in the opposite gender clothing sections, do you think that the gendered conversation around clothing is antiquated? Does that matter? Like, does that matter? Or do we need to start, you know, making clothes for body and not for gender? Like, what has that experience been for you all? How have you shifted the conversation, and especially in your own personal style?
Mia, you can start.
Well, I think for me, no one knows that it's men's clothing, and like when I'm wearing it, you're like, oh, she got on a man's. If it looks good, that's all really people are worried about. Like, how did you put it together? How did you piece it? So, no, I don't think the gender shouldn't matter. If it fits on you properly, if you feel good in it, I feel like that's the most important thing when it comes to clothing.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like the fact that we gender many things, just about everything, is kind of archaic to me at this point. I mean, anything is for anybody. It's clothes. I mean, like they're functional. I don't know, like women. The fact that like women couldn't wear pants, girl, they're functional. It's cold. Cover them legs and them ankles. Like I don't know what you want me to do. Like, you know. So if I want to wear a skirt, it's because it's hot. My leg, and I want my legs out. Like whatever. Like. So yeah, I think it's pointless to gender clothing, and definitely should be made for the body, not the gender, because what is gender at child? We can get into this whole, like, because what is gender at this point anyway? So
yeah, no, I definitely, and I, as somebody who's been big like all their lives, the thing that Mia hates about women's clothing is, as you said, is like that like frumpy look to it. But when I need to achieve an oversized look, like I will pull something from the women's clothes. Like I just recently bought an oversized coat from ASOS because I needed that oversized look. You know, I needed that oversized jacket that I could pair with my ones and my Telfar and run out the house. You know, like I needed that look, and I could only find the look in the women's section. So I definitely agree with that. Tara, I wanted to touch on, because something that Paul and Mia both brought up was body fit. Do you think from your experience that comes from centering whiteness in streetwear, and that things aren't built for, you know, a shape that's common in like marginalized communities? Or like what does that relationship look like, and how has fit maybe evolved over time?
I think it's nuanced, because if we look back, and again, when we talk about roots and foundations of streetwear, again, it was all very DIY and it was very punk. So clothes weren't being designed for male or female. Like it was more about form and not gender. So the fact that we have deviated so far from that is really interesting, because even when we look at, you know, going into the 70s and 80s and how brands were largely hip hop influenced, Black influenced, like we knew as far back then, body types were very different. Like larger men were designing brands, like thicker, bigger girls were wearing the brands. So again, to have come so far from that, it's really interesting how this industry essentially built on punk and hip hop culture has become so whitewashed. And I think the fits and how things are marketed have a lot to do with who's in charge. I would probably guess that some of the designers for Ivy Park are not bigger women. They might be bigger like an Ashley Graham big, but they're not large women with hips and curves that aren't necessarily the standard. So when we talk about plus size and, you know, that being the mark of inclusivity, that's rarely ever the case. Like you need to have people in these rooms that can speak to body shape and how different forms move and how fabrics stretch over bigger arms and bigger hips, you know? And if that's not being done, then we're going to continue to be limited with sizing. Because I'm a smaller girl and I tried on the first run of Ivy Park and I'm like, dang, I can't even hit up none of my big girl friends because a small is tight on me. So like, what are we supposed to do? And, you know, it was really unfortunate because, you know, I have a lot of privilege being like a smaller person and a lot of things fit me fine. But like, I have a lot of friends who are bigger and like they want to look cute and would look cute in these clothes if they were made a certain way, you know? So yeah, again, it's nuanced and it has so much to do with who's in these rooms. And then how we view plus size and how expansive that is. Like no figures look the same. Even like smaller women are built differently. So consider, I think it's strange that the standard still is even like 1X to 3X. And that's a big thing in menswear because we typically used to have and carry a lot of those sizes at the store, and they didn't always fit the way men would want them to. It's like a bulky, boxy fit. It's like not flattering. So buying menswear, if you prefer things to fall a certain way or fit a certain way, there's not always grace, you know. So yeah, I think a large part of it is, yeah, Bradley, what you said, it's been whitewashed, and it's the people in these rooms designing and making these creative decisions.
And I'm happy you touched on, like, especially for plus size men. And I know for me, I see so many plus size men that are squeezing into these things just to say that they have them. You know, like I see a lot of plus size men squeezing into these, you know, these Chinatown Market t-shirts, these, you know, these Jordan t-shirts, these shirts and things and coats and things that they can't button over their belly. But to say that they have it just to have it, because we are not in the conversation. And it blows my mind when you talk about like the plus size rappers who were at the beginning, who were in the 90s, who were doing all these things and wearing these clothes. we don't have that. I think about like Ivy Park and how groundbreaking Ivy Park was, but we had like a plus size women's collection, and then we had a plus size gender neutral collection, and there wasn't anything specifically catered towards plus size men. And not that I needed anything to be catered towards plus size men, but you like, I still to this day cannot tell you one campaign where there's a plus size male model in a major streetwear or fashion campaign that I've been like, oh my God, I see myself finally. So that's definitely been an experience, and I'm happy you talked about this. But a question for you and for Kat, as like, you guys do fit a stereotypical look. So oftentimes you're invited into rooms and into conversations, but you are cognizant of the lack of representation. So how have you kind of used your platforms in these rooms and in these conversations to elevate marginalized voices, or what has that experience been like, even bringing up the conversation that we need to include more marginalized voices? Like, what's that been like for you?
For me personally, it's giving up power and building a big enough platform to give to others. And I think it sort of started with, I think Sarah's in here, when Sarah put together an art show centered on representation in streetwear. And I learned so much from that experience, because even the ways we view representation were not at all as inclusive as they needed to be. So Sarah, coming from a place where she's a bigger girl who loves streetwear, she's like, there's nothing for me. It's hard to get anything. So she's like, I want to put something together where I'm highlighting, women with figures like me. And then it turned into a larger conversation about diversity of skin tone, diversity of gender, diversity of race, and things that we hadn't considered, because both of us were really coming from a place of privilege. I see all the time Hype Bay and all of these major streetwear blogs. You will always see, the light-skinned girl with curly hair, a skinny Asian girl. Once in a blue moon, they'll pop like a brown skin girl. You rarely ever see darker skin tones. You rarely see different genders highlighted. You never see trans representation. Nothing of those sorts. So that experience with Sarah was a big eye opener for me, and it made me realize like there's so much more work to be done, and I had to change the way I was advocating and just continue to like not speak for people, but allow them to speak for themselves and to listen, because like I have to listen too, because I'm going to miss the mark at times. So being accountable for that, and just like you said, being cognizant of certain things, that's it's helped me grow a lot. So that's where I'm at now, just continuing to give the platform to other people to speak on these issues.
I think you're muted, Kat.
Oh yeah, you're muted.
Sorry, I didn't realize. I would agree definitely with the idea of just giving up the power of the privilege that we do have. So when I came to Pittsburgh, I started off in the creative community as a model, and I did a lot of projects. I met a lot of different people through modeling, but number one, that's just not where my passions lie. And I did see that I had become sort of a token model for a lot of projects as their diversity representation, and that's just not the way that I wanted to portray myself. And so I started creating events that did give other people a chance to show off their talents and their just express themselves for who they were. One of the campaigns that I put together was with a plus size bra company. It was called Trust, and the entire campaign was for plus size women. And we redid Vogue campaigns with plus size women. It was with Joe Lowry. So like that was a really cool experience. And then the fashion show that we put together recently, Luxury Hair, that Mia did all of the hair for, that Bradley styled for, that we had a part in. I think that a lot of different communities were represented in that show. There was plus size representation, there was the LGBTQ plus community. There was all different races in the show. Like it was a good representation of the Pittsburgh talent that can be put together. And I have just made my career through uplifting other people and their voices. And I think that's very important.
I love that both of you touched on sacrificing power of privilege. And even the more we talk about representation, and even the more that we talk about like where we're not visible, imagine people who have never even like come into close proximity of the conversation. And I love that whoever touched on it, and I'm not sure, it just came into my mind about like the lack of trans representation, especially in streetwear. The conversation has never happened, you know, and that's like it's there's a for us to move forward and for us to continue to evolve this culture, there has to be a sacrificing of, you know, this power of privilege that we all play a part in some way somehow. Kat, I love that you talked about some of the projects that you've done, and from referencing things that Tara said, and we talk about what's at the heart of streetwear is like this DIY culture. Mia, Kat mentioned the hair show. You do so much with hair. Can you talk about like the relationship between the hair that you do and how that's played into fashion, or how you've expressed and how you've brought people into the conversation too, because you've done a lot. So I would love to hear that from you.
From a hair perspective, excuse me. I think something that I focus on is like bright colors and doing styles that may be seen as like unprofessional, or in certain settings it might not be acceptable. And I feel like when you're putting an outfit together, at least for Black women that I know, like hair is just as important. If anything, hair sets the style off. So it's very like if women come in or anybody come in and they're like, I have somewhere to be, this is what I'm wearing, how can we put this together? So it's like a collaborative effort to like pull a whole look together. And hair, I feel like, is just as important as what clothes you're wearing. I mean, people have whole fits based off of what the color of their hair looks like. So I feel like when you talk about clothing and streetwear, hair and hair styling is just as important to express that creativity.
Now, as a Black hairstylist and as somebody who censors Black hair, what has your relationship been like with like the appropriation culture, and how you've seen like styles taken from the community, and what have you been doing to kind of like empower yourself and, you know, center Black women essentially? I know I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but I love that you talked about.
I don't appreciate it. I mean, and this is something that's all I just don't, and there's no way around it. I don't look at it as no one paying homage. Like it's not. I just don't think it's your culture, and I feel like we give so much of ourselves already. And I feel like hair is something for me personally. It's something I keep for myself, and I take pride in it. Could you repeat the question one more time?
No, you're good. You're good. How have you taken, like, because you don't just do hair, and I know a lot of people are like, oh, Luxury, she do my hair in her dining room. You do art. So how have you like taken hair and use that to empower Black women and center Black women in a conversation of just like art and culture in general?
Just empower. I mean, just seeing yourself with a style, like just seeing yourself in a new light, just seeing that, like rewriting that narrative that Black hair is just bad, and it's not. It's beautiful. It's art. It's everything. So I feel like just putting more Black women, Black people into styles that they normally wouldn't see anywhere else. And I feel like for me, like I just like there's a care element to it as well. So like when you're getting your hair done, you don't just trust anybody with that. So it's like I'm building relationships, I'm building community within hair. And through my hair, I have conversations with so many people, and I run into so many people, and they feel comfortable with like having certain conversations with me about whatever. And I mean, if style's something that comes up and they feel comfortable coming to me and asking me like, where do you get some of your looks from, or how do you shop, or how do you do this and that? I don't know. I just love it, and I try to spread it as much as I can, and I try to Um, I don't know. People are just so creative. Like I've said before, people have come to me with like drawings of like hair looks that they want to do and coincide with the outfit that they have on. So,
Bradley, if you don't mind, I'd like to actually touch on that too for a bit.
Please.
So I have locks, and as far, so as far as like people, I'm sorry, non-black people with locks, I I don't really. It's not that I don't condone it, because I mean you're grown, do what you do, but it's like, to me, it's like the fact that you like, my hair will naturally lock on its own. That's like what it does. Like that's its nature. If you're using outside products to get your hair to stay together, it's telling. I'll say that. But on top of that, I'm always like so happy when people say that they're about to get lost or they're thinking about doing it, because like there's a certain journey that comes with it. Like I do my own hair, I twist my own hair, I dye my own hair, all of that. So like it's a very personal experience with your hair that you have. I guess I know many people don't really have the means or the know how to do or to retwist their locks on their own. But if you do, it's really not that hard. On top of like determining like the look that you want your hair to look like. But I always encourage people to do it, just because like I feel like it just gives me a sense of pride in my blackness as through my hair. It's like my hair, especially because it can do this, and while it is locked, it's not limiting. It's not a. It's like just because it's locked, people are just like, I don't want to, because I change my hair too much. Girl, I've done ponytails, twists, braids, like side pony, pigtail, space buns. What you want to like? What you want to
yeah.
do? You know. So
Especially, I
it's
look
like,
at Chloe and Halle all the time.
so it's like
And
it's
grownish, and even in their
yes,
music, and I'm just, they
yes,
do everything with their locks.
yes.
Black hair is so versatile, and it is at the heart of that, like Tara said, that DIY culture of creating looks that you've never seen. Black people, especially Black women, have always been at the beginning of that movement, and I love that this is the direction we're moving in, because I especially want to talk to the femmes in the room. What has your experience been? Because men, even me as a plus size male, even though I haven't been like seen visibly, I can still walk in a space and people assume that I know what I'm talking about. And I can be the first to tell you that I am still learning so much. But as women, and your experience in streetwear, what is your shopping experience been? What has your experience been engaging in this community? Do people listen to you? Do people trust that you know what you're doing? And especially Tara, because I know who you are, like I want to know like what your experience has been as a femme in these spaces has been. And Kat and Mia, please chime in. Feel free to chime in.
I think for me, I guess working in what I came to realize was very much a boys' industry. At times it was a bit isolating, but as I've grown, as the company's grown, there's so much more emphasis on women-led initiatives. So I feel now things are amazing. And my early experiences were not due in part to the company I worked for. It had more to do with the culture as a whole, And at one time I was like one of the few women in management and leadership. And that was just, again, it's like a cultural thing. And I will say that the industry at large, there is a lot more emphasis on representation and having women in leadership roles, but the Whitaker Group and social status has been intentional much longer than a lot of these other companies. So, I mean, it is what it is. As far as do people listen to me, I always do strongly feel that I had a voice in the company, and times when I thought I wasn't being listened to, I absolutely was. And there was a place sort of being developed for me, which is, here with Be Social, doing the community work that I've always been very committed to and wanted to do more with. So all in all, like, it's been a great experience to be with a company that I've been able to grow with, and have experiences, and even down to my work as a curator, that would not have happened had it not been for working with social status, and had it not been for the initiatives we were focused on well before anybody else in the industry really was, and that was an emphasis on like arts, culture, and community. So um, I will say that a lot of young men who are developing brands and things like that, they don't listen because they think they know everything. And, you know, I'm a woman, I'm older, maybe they feel like I'm not hip, I'm not with it, but I mean, I don't know. To that I always say I've been in the game for quite some time and I've seen a lot of brands come and go, and that's going to continue to happen. So it is what it is. At times, my ego is a little bruised, but you know, I wish the best for everybody because I love streetwear. I will always advocate for it. I study it. So, yeah, good luck to everyone in their endeavors.
I definitely recognize like you are speaking from a place of somebody who has come into a platform to be able to do the work that you're doing, and that's incredible. I want to speak to Kat and Mia as people who don't work directly with streetwear or in the streetwear culture. Like, what has your experience been as a woman um, in the space?
So I don't have a lot of knowledge of streetwear in any capacity, really. I have gone into stores like Social Status, and honestly, I'll go in and I really don't know the brand names. I don't know what to even like look for when I go into the store. So I've definitely had help looking for it, but I would say that it's apparent that the employees know that I don't know about it. So I'm not saying that it's degrading to women in any way, but it's definitely not an inclusive community in every aspect. Obviously, why we're here for this conversation. But yeah, so like just my experience, it's not something that's welcoming and that makes me want to go back and learn about it. It's just kind of like, oh, when I go, I don't know about it, and it just stays that way. I don't really think about like, oh, I want to expand my knowledge. Oh, I want to go back and learn about this. So
I agree. I feel like if I didn't have Bradley in my life, I feel like one, I wouldn't know as much, but I feel like when I go into certain stores, they're very much like he knows what he's doing, you know, such and such. When I come in, it's like, well, what do you need? How can I help you? But it's not like I want to help you. It's like, do you really know what you're doing up in here?
yeah.
If not, then see your way. So it's like, I don't want to say it's like buying a car or anything like that, but at times it's like I feel like, you know, the men will be greeted a lot differently than if I was to go in by myself.
I know we definitely because me and Mia do a lot of shopping together. If anybody knows, like Mia is like my best friend. So we are oftentimes like out at different stores, and oftentimes like people will treat me as the customer and she as the tag along. Like I don't know, and it's like I'm not going to speak on nobody's pockets, but usually Mia as the customer. I will say that. Usually me as the customer and I'm the tag along. So it's like it's been really interesting to see that dynamic because even like luckily I've had a great experience. My the only reason I'm into streetwear in the first place is because of my relationship with workers at Social Status. I just want to shout out like Art Brown, Tara Faye, and Stuart McNeil, who were the first three people to ever talk to me about streetwear. Because when I walked into Social Status after I had come back to Pittsburgh, I was just like, first of all, I didn't know what this place was, and how it has came to where it's at. And they were all the three of those people were very patient, very knowledgeable and very welcoming and warm, but that is not everybody's experience. And every streetwear community, especially in the city, does not offer that same experience. So Tara, you brought up a really great point, and this is something that I know we can all speak on. We live in a city where everybody is popping up with brands and names and clothes, and especially like these streetwear brands and, the hip cool now, like you want to support local, artists. What has that experience been like? Is there a struggle, and is representation even at the forefront within the city,
Oh no, not at all. On one of the earlier events I had where I wanted the focus to be on women's brands, there were very few. There's Crisera with Good Days brand, Daisha with Timeless Era, And I honestly think that's it. And I always want to shout out our women consumers and women that shop at the stores and support the brand and like streetwear in general. But there's not even a lot of that. And I mean, it's unfortunate. I think most of these brands. I mean, I don't know. I feel as though a brand should tell a story, right? And not everyone wants to tell a story. They just want to sell some clothes. So it's like, do you want a brand to sustain or do you want to just make a few dollars? I love Andre Jones because he's very intentional about when he does drops. And Andre and I go so far back that I modeled for him a few times in the past. And to see how he continues to just kind of do his own thing and put out product when he feels like it. And when he does, it's a complete collection. It's incredibly well thought out. There's just so much intention behind it. I love that for him. And you can tell he's not trying to make a quick dollar. He's like, the right people are going to buy this product. And I wish more brands functioned in that way. And yeah, I absolutely wish we had more diversity and, more women, especially, were putting out product. I wish we had product that was, more expansive and inclusive in terms of sizing and everything else, but it's rare. It's just not the norm here in Pittsburgh. But I think I'm optimistic we could get to that place. We have a burgeoning community of young artists and creatives who are doing great things. And I think in time, it's something that is going to happen. We just have to get there.
Just to repeat the question, what has your experience been with like the streetwear brands within the city? Like, have you seen yourself represented? Have you seen, a marginalized community that you belong to represented? Has it been accessible? Has it been inclusive? What has that experience been like for the rest of you all, the rest of the panelists?
Have I seen myself represented? No. But I feel like a lot of the streetwear, I guess I feel like that I kind of gravitate to. I mean, a bunch of it is typically like thrifted and that kind of thing. And I don't know. I feel like it's always like a one-off piece, kind of like what Tara was talking about. There isn't really a whole line or like a whole collection of something that I'm interested in. It's usually like one thing that like will catch my eye, and everything else is just like, okay, this is not for me. And I think a lot of it has to do with, I guess, for whatever reason, I don't know why people are so, in fashion especially, like I feel like fashion pushes an envelope, like couture pushes it in an envelope, but in streetwear, we're like, there's like, which is weird because, but again, based off of what Tara was saying, like streetwear comes from really pushing that envelope and going against everything that like, was accepted or status quo. So it's like it seems that now people in streetwear are afraid to push that envelope and appeal to like a more diverse group of people. Like, yeah, like we can have all the Biggie t-shirts, all the Tupac t-shirts, like we get it, but like, can I get someone, like, can I get a Marsha P. Johnson like shirt? You know what I'm saying? Shirt. Can I get something that will from someone in my community? I mean, like, hell, I'll take a Tyler Perry shirt at this point, but you know what I'm saying? Like, can I take a black gay man? Or like, like it's just like it's, and God, Pittsburgh especially, it's a very this is home. It's Pittsburgh will always be my home, but it's a very limiting city. It's like it's sickening because like if you get the chance to leave and come back, you realize how much people here limit themselves. Like it's as if they can't think beyond Pittsburgh. It's like, bruh, if you were doing things like with Pittsburgh not in mind, it will go farther than that. Like you have to really believe that your vision and your product can transcend just where you are. And I feel like that's the one thing that doesn't happen. There's that transcendence piece is not included.
And it's so crazy you talk about like just Pittsburgh being limiting. We do have a lot of people gatekeeping streetwear and gatekeeping culture within Pittsburgh. in a place that like didn't originate streetwear. So there's no real reason to like gatekeep it because it's not really ours. You know, we're all participating in a culture that, you know, we didn't start it, you know.
Like Steel Town, girl. We wasn't out here.
Yeah. And you talk about like a Marsha P. Johnson t-shirt. I cannot name one person who has paid homage to any like queer icons or queer members of history.
I will say this, Chrisera did drop a t-shirt with James Baldwin.
Okay.
And I was shocked because not only is he such a queer icon, right? Like when we look at Black scholars, brilliant Black writers, you know, that he's such a huge figure. I never even could imagine associating him with a streetwear brand. So I really loved and appreciated that she did that. And I missed out on that drop, but I hope that everyone who was able to purchase also like acknowledged how huge that is for a small independent Pittsburgh brand. And like Timeless Era also did like a run of Black History Month pieces. None of the men did anything for Black History Month, but all these girls putting out, you know, these Black figure pieces. It was very interesting. But we do have legacy brands in Pittsburgh. We have Ikewear. So if you're from the Hill, that's a big deal. And Ikewear has been around probably since I moved to Pittsburgh. So
we love a reference, girl.
Like
and Chrisera is like, me and Chrisera go back to elementary school. So she has done, you know, Good Days. And because I know Chrisera, I was like, you know, slide me a 3X in one of them hoodies, you know. But we don't like, a lot of these people who are just dropping shirts only go up to like an XL. And so even when you want to be supportive, and I do have friends who are making these amazing lines, and even if they're not like the most groundbreaking, I want to support because they're my friends, and I can't.
Right.
I'm not gonna buy a shirt so it can sit there, you know, or I'm like, you know, I want to be a part of the conversation. And I'm sorry to jump in, Kat. Mia, I do really want to hear from you and your experience, especially within the city.
So like I said before, I don't have as much experience with streetwear, but shout out to Chrisera again, because I've been able to help her behind the scenes with her shoots. So I've been just learning about streetwear from her drops. She'll kind of show me her designs before, like months before people even see them. So I saw the Black History Month shirt, the recent drop of hoodies, like she showed me those designs and the process for that. So definitely a shout out to her for that. But yeah, like we've all said, the community of streetwear in Pittsburgh is definitely limiting. It's not expansive. And I agree with the comment before of, if people weren't thinking about Pittsburgh when they're making their designs, it would go further. Like, it's just, I think a lot of people are very centered on Pittsburgh. Everybody because I'm not from here, so I can't claim Pittsburgh in any way, but I have noticed from coming here that not everybody, I shouldn't say everybody, a lot of people do focus primarily on Pittsburgh. And I think that expanding just their reach and just trying to go to other cities, even to like drop their clothing, which I understand that that's not accessible to everyone, but there are definitely ways to do it. And there are people that can help them to do that. So I think it's a matter of like networking and finding the resources to do that. So it's just my opinion.
I agree too. I think Paul mentioned something about thrifting, and I remember when everything was open, they used to have like the vintage markets, and so I would really like look forward to that. And I missed that because it was just like, I know this would be something you see. But like you said, I like to travel, and when I do travel, if there's like a market, if there's like a pop-up or something, I feel like I'm more like eager to support something from out of town than here, because like you said, it's just like kind of the same things, and I would love to see more creativity. I'm sad that I couldn't get the shirt from Casera, but.
And just real quickly on top of that, like, I think it's really important to have people like Black figures and just Black culture on clothing, because it's like you see a lot of Black people, and I'm not saying that Black people don't listen to Metallica or Pink Floyd, but girl, y'all don't listen to no damn Metallica or Pink Floyd. You're wearing a Pink Floyd t-shirt. Name me five five Pink Floyd anything. I'll wait, album, songs, type, you know what I'm saying? But like, and that's what's being pushed. But like, me as a 12-year-old kid, I see a person with a black person on their shirt. Who's that? You know what I'm saying? It sparks interest. It makes people ask questions. So, and that just further pushes the agenda of Black history and Black culture. So yeah, that's just my piece.
I love that, and I love the emphasis on these pieces being conversation starters and even educational moments, and how we communicate culture through streetwear and how we share culture through streetwear, and even how we sometimes necessarily like it's necessary to do gatekeep culture using streetwear, and how like I do appreciate, especially once again, Chris Sarah's Black History Month shirt was a Black History Month shirt. Like it was like she didn't just release a picture of James Baldwin and sell it to everybody. Like that was like very specifically, this is Black culture, this is Black history, and that's such a necessary conversation that a lot of people aren't having. Even in like some of the bigger brands, and they're just their graphics don't there. It doesn't go any further than, you know, a pretty picture or a catchy little, you know, a catchy little
Slogan,
something to talk about, or an Instagram picture, you know. So I know where we are and I know where we've been, but where do you see representation in streetwear going? How do you see it being integrated more, or what can we do more to show that representation in our art, in our photography, in our you know, our designs, our things like that? Where do you see kind of the movement heading, you know, and how are you already contributing to that conversation?
I'll answer it because I feel like I'm gonna forget. But I feel like as far as the future is concerned, I feel like it's gonna take people of these minority groups to spearhead things, like kind of what Tara was saying. Like there are not people at Ivy Park that are plus size that are Black. You know, it's going to take people to be in those establishing grassroots roles in order for things like this or for representation like that to be a thing. You know, and I feel like personally, like with my art and what I do with film and photography and just like graphic media, is that like my overarching, I guess, theme of anything I do artistically is to tell authentic Black stories. So whether that be queer Black, trans Black, women, children, mental health, what, you know what I'm saying? Like these are all authentic Black experiences. And so I feel like just as long as we're able to highlight the vastness of what it means to be Black. It's not just Black history. It's not just slavery. It's not just the Harlem Renaissance. It is, like it. So there's we are not a monolith. We are an entire diaspora. Like, so as long as we're able to like begin to display that outside of what we've already known, I feel like that'll be leaps and bounds, from where we are now. So.
I'm glad Martell said that in the chat.
I was just about to say.
Yeah, that, oh my God, I glad it was said. That's
sorry, like real quick, because I don't want to keep on talking, but like Martell, yes, like a big thing about anything I do, like, can you come to me with a vision? Come to me, like, I don't want to take pictures for your Instagram, like, no shade, post it, but like, what is the point of all of this? Not the Gildan shirt.
Also, we have to take a look at who is modeling these clothes. And I have people close to me who are not intentional about conceptualizing these shoots. If you are posting a white woman in your shirt, I'm not going to buy it. I'm not. I don't care how cool we are. And if we're that close, you already should know better. I'm not doing it. I'm not interested. If that's your market, okay. Mm-hmm. If you believe that showcasing a white woman in your t-shirt is going to help expand your market, come on. I don't think you want to be sustainable. I don't think you want longevity. So that's just kind of like where I'm at with it, because I can afford to be in that place, And I think if we all were more intentional, then that, again, like, I hate to keep using Chris Sarah as an example, but Cressera be having all Black people in her shoots, and that makes me want to buy it even more. And Cressera was someone that I slept on initially, and I wish she was here because I remember some of her earlier designs, it looked like the Bape logo, and I had immediately like kind of written her off. And I had people check me like, Tara, that's not even you, because you be crying about how no women are doing streetwear, and you got this girl doing streetwear, like you need to support her. And now like I will do anything for that girl, like, so that's just, you know, and that's just another example of me having to step aside and, you know, be called out and be accountable for places I went wrong. So yeah, growth.
I think the idea of expanding into the future, definitely it could come from collaboration, because there are a lot of people sitting in this room that these brands could be talking to and could be listening to, and just could hear from different opinions. I think a lot of pockets in Pittsburgh in there's a lot of different pockets in Pittsburgh, and the pockets don't talk to each other as much as they could grow from each other, learn from each other. And I think if there was a way to facilitate that, or just, I don't know, find a way to reach out to each other, I think that a lot of the brands could take off and be a lot more successful than they are right now.
I feel like I'm just repeating everybody else, but I think the most important thing is actually being intentional. Like you can have somebody, like we said, on your board, but what are they doing? What are they about? Like, are they actually paying attention to what it is that the consumer needs? Yeah, that's basically it for me.
Somebody just put a comment in the chat. Thank you, Mark, for bringing that up. Yeah, I, as a plus size individual, I will say once again, I am not in the conversation. I don't see anybody who looks like me in the conversation. I would love to see it. I would love to be a part of it. And Kat, speaking to your point on collaboration, we do so much, and Kat is why I brought you in, even between you and I, between you, I, and Mia, between us and the people in this group, have collaborated with so many different groups of people. But Kat, you've done so many projects centering plus size bodies. You have done work that nobody else in the city is doing. Because I haven't seen it and I would love to see it. I would literally just love to see it. I heard collaboration. I definitely agree collaboration is necessary, especially collaborating with people who are outside of your immediate circle. And a lot of people are like, you know, I teamed up with such and such. You and such are doing the exact same thing. So there's not a growth opportunity isn't going to come out of that. You know, nothing's going to change from what you're doing. Y'all will use the same people. Y'all will do the same things, and nothing new will come out of it. But reaching out to people who have a different perspective, who are representing a different community. We don't have, you know, where and this is another reason why I really wanted to talk about queer representation. Cisgendered people are not the only people who want to wear streetwear, you know? But we don't see it. And if we do see it, it's like Harry Styles in a dress, you know, like we don't see, you know, and especially going back to Paul's point about Black people not being a monolith, there are all different types of queer people within the Black community that are not being represented, you know? There's just so many more conversations to be had. And Tara and Mia, I especially want to emphasize your point about being intentional. And this goes back to Kat's point about being the diversity model that everybody throws into their shoot. Yes, you have picked a Black model to be in your shoot, but is one model gonna show that you're diverse? Is the, you know, racially ambiguous light-skinned girl gonna tell the story that you want to include more, you know, races in your conversation? Or are you doing literally the bare minimum to show that you are inclusive? So definitely being intentional about who you're working with and what you're showing. And I think, especially as Black creators, and I'm so happy to have 4 amazing ones on this panel and more in the chat, but as Black creators, we cannot, you know, sell out to whiteness. You know, when we are encouraging, white people are going to consume our stuff because white people always have. That's the nature of, you know, culture and cultural appropriation. White people are going to buy your stuff. You don't have to cater to them. It's Black people who have been fighting for representation who want to feel included in the things that you're doing. So I think that's definitely something to keep in mind moving forward. And that's how we build up the community. That's how we build up the community. And that's how we, you know, grow streetwear back out to, as Tara said, the roots of where it was, and the Black community and hip hop and music and rap and art and culture, you know, and it was inclusive to Black women and especially plus size Black women and women who do hair, all these different things. We have the power to grow that conversation. And I think going back to Kat's point, collaboration is definitely at the foundation of that, just working together and wanting to hear from other perspectives. And, you know, our egos definitely get in the way of, you know, hearing, you know, constructive criticism and criticism in general. It's like we have turf wars, but once again, it's Pittsburgh. And I it's not necessary, you know, it's not necessary. And if we want Pittsburgh to be a part of the larger organization, we have to be united in how we present. You know, there has to be substance there to show and to give. And we're in the shallow waters right now. So my hope is that we get a little deeper and more inclusive. And it's not just like, it's not white people and a few Black people at the forefront, that we are including all voices, all demographics, just more people involved in the conversation. So, yeah, does anybody have any final words before we open the floor for questions? Wonderful, wonderful. We are now going to open the floor to questions. So feel free to put in the chat. You can unmute yourself. You can unvideo your, you know, show yourself. You don't even have to have a question. If you want to say something that you wanted to include, we want to hear from you. This is your opportunity to jump in the conversation, say hello, say whatever.
I do want to speak to what Martell said about people reaching out to their friends and only them. And I think that's because most people function in a space where their friends are the one who won't give them real constructive criticism, right? So if we surround ourselves with people who are just like, that's dope, you're doing great, don't change a thing, those are the people we're going to want to continuously work with. We don't want to bring in outsiders. And I know I didn't necessarily function in that way for a long time, but because I functioned in a space in Pittsburgh where I was always so tapped for resources, so tapped for opportunities, when I finally got to a certain place, I was very intimidated by the younger people coming up around me. And like, I'm not afraid to speak to that. When I met Kat and she came into social and told me all of these ideas she had, I was scared to death of this girl. I was like, she's going to come in here and best me. And she has all these good ideas. And I was like, I cannot be that person. I cannot gatekeep. So instead, I said, Kat, you can come to social and you can do an event whenever you want, and I'll support you however I can. And it was so beautiful seeing her ideas manifest, seeing the people who came out to support her. And I was like, yo, this is really what it's all about, like giving other people space to put things together. And once I got to that place where I was just like, my role is to like create space for others, I was so much more comfortable, to the point to where, Bradley, I think I even told you, like, I didn't want my name to even be attached to this event, because I'm like, I don't want anything to be about me. Like, this is, you know, for other people. And it's great to be able to have opportunities to speak, but I'm so much more concerned about like putting on the next people, the next generation, the next like younger Black girls who are trying to just, you know, do dope things in the city. That's just where I'm at. And it took a while to get there. And I think a lot of people aren't even close to getting there. And I understand it's a process, but if we eliminated egos and we really did function in the way of community and collaboration, we could do so much more.
And Kat, Reclaim Rose was incredible, and it was an awesome thing.
Amazing.
Thank you, and thank you.
You have more invested in the conversation than you think, because you definitely, the work that you've done, it's amazing. And I agree with you, Tara, just talking about the bringing up the next generation. And I think that's like, you know, you've peaked when you are not open to change. And I think the more you welcome change and the more you accept change and the more you help change come about, you'll never peak. You'll continue to grow, you'll continue to evolve, and you'll continue to be better. So that's also something to think about. I see a hand raised. So Abriana, please unmute your mic. Join us. We'd love to hear from you.
Okay. So I'm very shy myself. So I'm sort of like, I guess like following up on what Tara was talking about, sort of like helping, I guess like, you know, like younger Black people who are interested in like the arts and fashion and everything. But specifically, there's like a book by Bell Hooks. It's called Art of My Mind. And I feel like sort of the whole theme, yeah, sort of like the whole theme of, I don't know, like sharing opportunities and resources with other people in your community is really important, and something that I feel like I even sometimes get intimidated, and I'm really shy. I'm like mad shy. So that's why my camera's off and everything. But yeah, I just think that it's really important. So thank you for saying that.
Mm-hmm. And Abriana, thank you so much for joining the conversation. We actually just met this weekend, so I'm so happy that you're here. And we love a book recommendation. You can ask Mia. I'm a new reader, so I'm trying to read everything, and we love Bell Hooks. We read All About Love, so I will happily jump into another Bell Hooks recommendation. So thank you so much for sharing that. And I think it's interesting that you brought up, like, we do have so many people who are shy. And it's unfortunate, especially the stigma on Black girls, that like when you're shy, you're unfriendly, when it's really like you're just shy, you know, like that's so unfortunate. And that's still a stigma that women are fighting. All women, but especially Black women, have been fighting for a very long time. That it's not the norm that women are collaborating, and it's not the norm that women are welcome in spaces to speak up. So I think it's necessary for us to acknowledge that we need to create more welcoming spaces where people don't have to feel scared to come in and enter and speak, but also that we need to be more forgiving, not even forgiving because there's nothing to forgive, but more accepting of like how Black women and how Black people in general enter spaces, and that it's not our job to command them. And the tweet that's going around that's like, what is professionalism if not white privilege persevering? And it's like stuff like that. Like, we have been subscribed to. Thank you, Tara. I knew you would appreciate it. We are all WandaVision obsessed right now, but it's like we have this society that's built on whiteness and white standards. We don't fit into that. You know, we don't fit into that conversation. So acknowledging that Black people are going to enter spaces in the way that they want to enter them, and we have to accept that's what it is. You know, they don't need to be bigger if they present smaller, and they don't need to be smaller if they present bigger. They're just them. So I'm glad that you brought that up, and thank you so much for sharing your particular experience. Is there anybody else who wants to jump in?
Well, actually, yeah. Oh, yeah. So I'm like reading the chat. I'm seeing a lot of things about like just, I guess like the lack of collaboration within Pittsburgh, especially. And I've noticed that when I moved back here from North Carolina, like it's really hard to. It's not hard to work with people, but it's hard to get people that want to work with people outside of their network or their immediate circle. And I feel like a lot of that kind of boils down to, and this is not a knock on anybody because you know you are who you say you are, but like if you are an artist and like a truly an artist, you should want to kind of challenge yourself and want to push your own boundaries or see how what you do and how what someone else does could mesh and come together to create something even better. I think that's the beauty of art. And so it just makes me sad sometimes when like I'm someone who I will work with anybody. Like I don't care. Like even if I'm doing like a photo shoot, I don't typically look for models. I look for people, you know, because like people bring something. Models, they're like in their mind, they're like, okay, I have to be on, I have to pose this way. Whereas if you're just a person, you just know how your body, you know what I'm saying? Like, give me you, don't give me what you think a model is. So it's just like the opportunities and the things that arise from organic partnership and collaboration is so beautiful. And it just makes me so sad that like people in Pittsburgh especially are so just against working with other people. Like, and it makes it really hard to grow as an artist and as a person here, especially because, you know, and why so many people end up leaving Pittsburgh, because it's just like, well, I've reached as far as I can go here because no one else wants to help me, or no one else wants to join me, or, you know, like I can only shoot the same people so many times. So yeah, like that, I guess my hope for Pittsburgh as Pittsburgh is just to be more open and be more affirmed in your artistic vision and in yourself as an artist. You do have something to offer and bring. Share it with people. Allow yourself to collaborate. Like, allow that space, create that space, because it's not going. White people are not going to create it for you. They're not going to give it to us. You have to create it, but you have to first be affirmed in your ability to create that space. So,
there are 2 comments in the chat that I really wanted to address. The first one being from Chi, fellow Pittsburgh stylist. I saw you mention about plus size people who are included, not necessarily being styled, just being included. Can you talk more about that and your perception of what that's been like, especially in your profession? Because I definitely agree, and I want to hear more for the conversation. I don't know if Chi is still in here. She might have jumped out.
Oh yeah, I think she dropped off.
But I tell this story a lot because it's always struck me as like a growth point in my own journey with fashion. Very popular reality television show. She just jumped in. Very popular reality television show, America's Next Top Model. Everybody's seen at least one episode or a clip, whatever.
Hey guys. Oh, I'm sorry. I hope
You're
I
good.
didn't.
You're good.
My mic kind of, I don't know what happened. But for starters, I don't like how, forgive like my brain just went blank. There's no effort in plus size women or femmes or any of that. It's just like, okay, well, she's thick, so she's bigger. Let me put her on this. You know, we're inclusive. Okay, we got the brand photos out here. And it's like, did you even try? You know, did you get to know her or them or him as an individual and see what they like, understand their personality, their strengths, their weaknesses, their fears? It just seems like everything's really about money and everything's about pretending for social media that I'm doing this and I'm promoting this and I stand behind this, and you don't. And that's okay if you don't, you know what I mean? But don't put people in a position where they think they have some kind of opportunity or they're being represented or you actually care about me and you don't. I don't see many stylists, not stylists. I don't see many models or creatives. I don't want to, let me find, as Paul said, if I'm not mistaken, regular people being represented. And it's not difficult to style. You know what I mean? It's not difficult to put someone in a nice outfit or take the time to study or research. And somebody said in the comments about being intentional. You just have to want to do it. And you don't want to do it. And that's fine. But just give people the opportunity, because every model shouldn't be skinny. You know what I mean? Every model isn't small. Every person isn't small. That's just unrealistic. So it's just a matter of being intentional. And I hate seeing that. Like, I wanted to change and try to like work towards fixing that because it's unacceptable.
No, I totally agree. The reference I was pulling was season 3 of America's Next Top Model. There was a plus size model, Takara. She is one of the most famous contestants to come from the show. And she was the first plus size model to be on the show. There's a specific episode that has haunted me to this day and has really damaged me in my growth with my relationship with my own body. And it was incredible to see. It was incredible in a bad way to see something like this happen on national television. But Takara, who was only 180 pounds, keep that in mind, and considered a plus size model at the time, only 180 pounds, she was getting fitted for an outfit. They didn't have anything that was going to fit her. So they threw her in I think suit pants and a button down shirt. It was just, just threw something on her. And the woman is trying to, pin it so it can show at least some little bit of curve. And she's just sticking Takara in the back with the thread. And Takara's like, this hurts. I am in pain. And the stylist literally says to her, you should be lucky we even found something in your size. And I remember seeing that and being like, but she's only 180 pounds. She's only that is not even a real plus size girl. She's a girl that what Mia was talking about, a girl who is plus size but isn't really plus size. Takara was small. And so we bring we bring plus size people into the conversation and we treat them like they should be lucky that they're even there, instead of catering to them and really caring about, like you said, that intentionality. How do the clothes fit? Are people who look like this person gonna want to buy this? Is this even cute? Is this, is this even something that you would want to wear? Or are we just saying, we gave y'all somebody big, be happy about that? So I definitely agree with that, Chi, and thank you so much for sharing and for speaking to that, and for utilizing your platform to do more to bring awareness to that. We are definitely thankful for the work that you do in the city. Like, you are definitely, making some moves, and it's definitely being seen. So
thank you. I just wanted to say, if there's anything that I can do to help change that, let me know. Like, as Tara said, I hope I didn't pronounce your name wrong. Is that the goal is to be better than your last, you know what I mean? And as Black creatives, we're all we have. That's it, you know what I mean? It's like we're all we have, and we can accomplish so much more together. This isn't a competition. All of us have blessings that are assigned to us as individuals, you know what I mean? So when we come together, just imagine what we could create, imagine what we could do, the narratives we could change. So thank you for you guys even doing this. It's incredible.
And we'll definitely be in touch, Chi, believe that. There is another comment in the chat. I believe it was Brene who touched on the relationship that Black women have within the city, and Pittsburgh Click. So can you talk a little bit more about that and kind of your experience as a Black woman creative in the space, and what, I guess, are your hopes, or what are the barriers, and what are your hopes for, women creatives in the city? I don't know if Brene is still in here, but.
Yeah, I'm here. I just want to say thanks to Bradley for hosting this conversation and just being a leader and, really popping out with the fam on this call. I've really just gained some value, some insight to what we all really been thinking, but nobody's really been saying. So thanks, Bradley. Thank you, Tara. And just what you said, Brad, it's difficult as someone, you and I both graduated and came back home, and have always been creative, but really never had that outlet. Even going to the creative and performing arts high school, no one ever recognizing or saying, hey, you're special. It was always a competition, even with your own kind. Paul, I know you get it. So it's like, so now what can I do to make myself stand out when actually I stand out just because I am? And so for me, it was saying I am enough. And once I cycled through the whole model scene here in Pittsburgh, I realized I don't have to do anything to specialize myself, to normalize myself. I auditioned for, what's that company in Pittsburgh? Doherty. Yes, auditioned for Doherty, auditioned for this and that, and didn't hear anything, or, was politely told, no thanks. And it's like, okay, but I'm celebrated by my community. And so now I think for Pittsburgh, it's saying who gets to decide what the cap is for community in Pittsburgh, because there is no cap. Nobody gets to decide who's a part of the community and who's not. And then saying, how can we expand and bridge our communities? Not the darky shit. How can we bridge the gap in our communities more? And I think you all already touched on that. My hope and my desire is that people who have the desire can know where to go. That's one thing we don't do enough of, is say, okay, you may not be hearing from Doherty, but you can go to Kat Burton and she's going to get you in the door a different way. Or you may not, know how to dress now, but you can go to Social Status and we'll teach you how to, that's what I always hope for, is that people could be more willing to help and lend a hand and be willing to open doors instead of closing people out. That's what I mean by clicks, because I never felt, even as a model, I felt like I was he-heed and T-heed in my face, but never really accepted for the whole of myself. So.
And I thank you so much for sharing your own experience. One of the things you touched on is about people acknowledge the girls, GRS. I'm a big GRS fan, and one of the things that they always emphasize on their show is that if you don't see a space for you, you just create it yourself, Kia recently in an episode spoke on there are probably, there are 100 people, there could be 100 people in the world doing the exact same thing that you're doing. What sets you apart is that you're the person doing it, so you're automatically doing something different that nobody else is doing because of who you are. You made it special, you made it unique, you made it your own thing. So, you're the reason why it's special, you're the reason why it's different. You don't have to compete to be in the same lane with somebody else. You just create your own and you just have your own, and that's okay. And what we learned, especially relating the conversation back to streetwear, you look at like, what are the big two? Adidas and Nike, right? The people who everybody associates with like athleisure and sneakers and things like that. They are doing the exact same thing, but do either of them look like they're hurting? I'm in this room right now with different stylists who are styling people and I'm styling people. Different models, I'm a model, they're models. Different content creators, they're content creators, I'm content creators. We're doing completely different things though, because we are different people. And I think it's acknowledging that like, you don't have to gatekeep things away from people, and you don't have to, be afraid of building that bridge with others, because there is room for everybody. There's space for everybody. And you should want more people, especially more people doing what you're doing, to come in to, like Paul said, help you grow as an artist, help you shape and honing your craft. Building a relationship with Kat has shown me, Kat has opened the door for me to do so many things. Kat is the first person to put me on in this city. It was Kat. And I came up wanting to do the things that Kat was doing. I told Kat to her face, I want to do exactly what you're doing. Kat, instead of saying like, I got sons out here, she was like, okay, so how are you going to do it? What are we going to do? What are the plans? What are your ideas? What do you want to do? If it was not for Kat, I wouldn't have done it, because I didn't know it was available, and I didn't know it was available to me, and Kat wasn't like, the big dude in the back wants the creative direct. No, Kat was like, so what are your ideas? Okay, I know this person, this, and this will help you. So when are you doing it? And we need more of that. And so Brene, I agree with you when you say like, you have a lot, especially like amongst the Black female models, which are like, there shouldn't be cattiness, there's room for everybody, there should be more than just one Black girl. It goes back to like the conversation with like Naomi Campbell and Tyra Banks. Naomi Campbell was the one Black girl in the conversation, so she gatekeeped away from Tyra, when in reality they should have worked together. That's how it should be, because we need more people in these rooms and doing the things that white people get to just have and get to just do. So I thank you so much, Brene, for sharing your experience and just for being vulnerable, because especially speaking on like failures of trying to join the Pittsburgh creative scene is so necessary, because almost everybody in the city always pretends that everything's going well and they just, success. It is not that all the time. A lot of no's, and especially for people who belong in marginalized communities, a lot of no's in spaces that you really desire to be in. And that's hard in your like growth journey of wanting to